So I wanted to do a kind of little vlog series on this hella journey I'm about to go on. So I want to start at the beginning and kind of do a part one. So I'm Jamie, I'm 39 years old. I just got diagnosed with triple negative breast cancer. I have no family history. It's a grade 3. I think it's at least a stage 3. I will have verification of that after some more imaging tomorrow. But yeah, so I started feeling kind of crappy last fall, just really tired. Fatigued, especially like in the afternoon, 2 o'clock, normally 2 o'clock hits pretty hard, but this was hitting a little harder than normal. There were days where I felt like I just had to go to sleep, and a lot of brain fog, which is not like me. So I just kind of wrote it out. I was like, I'm 39, maybe I'm going to menopause, whatever. So I reached out to my nurse practitioner, who's like my PCP. She's amazing, and told her what was going on. And she ordered some blood work. We did a full hormone panel, a full autoimmune panel. I also have breast implants, had them for about 5 years. And during this time went down the rabbit hole of breast implant illness, which I believe fully is a real thing. There's hundreds of thousands of women that have implants, have all these crazy autoimmune type symptoms, but the tests show nothing. And then they get an explant and their symptoms resolve. So I felt like maybe that was the problem, some silicone toxicity or something like that. Doctors don't give you the full story on breast implants, by the way, before you get them. Do your research. They are all black box warnings on all breast implants. I didn't know that. So anyway, I went down that rabbit hole and I called my doctor. I was like, I think I have breast implant illness. She was like, well, let's run some tests before you have surgery. So we did the blood work and everything's 100% normal. This was in March. It's currently May. It'll be June 1st tomorrow. So this was 2 months ago. I had 100% normal blood work. No autoimmune, no hormones out of whack, nothing. So definitely not a menopause, but I just felt like something was wrong. So I had found a lump in my right breast, probably in January or February. When I found it, I happened to be going to see my OBGYN for my annual appointment anyway. So while I was there, he did a physical breast exam and he was like, this is a very typical breast cyst. Like, I'm 99% sure this is nothing. Been doing this for 40 years, that whole spiel. So I trusted him. I mean, he's a great doctor. And he said, let's keep an eye on it. Send me home with some supplements to take. Keep an eye on it. If it changes, let me know. But otherwise, come back. We'll come back in like 3 or 4 weeks, I forget what it was, and do another exam and see if it's changed. So I went back and it hadn't really changed much. And I felt like it was growing with my cycle. So typical breast cysts can change in size when you're on your period and then they shrink up when you're not. And I felt like it had gotten bigger, but then it had also gotten smaller. And in hindsight, I think maybe it was just moving and I couldn't feel it as well. But I told him that. He did another exam and he was like, bad stuff doesn't shrink. I'll remember that. So I was like, okay. So the plan was to keep an eye on it. If it changed, let him know, but do a mammogram when I turned 40 in October. So went home and probably about a week later, it started changing pretty quickly. So it grew from the size of probably, I don't know, maybe a nickel, to it's currently about a half of an avocado, I would say. And so I knew something was wrong and I knew I no longer wanted to talk to this doctor about it. So HerScan, which is a mobile ultrasound company, was in Charlottesville where I live that week. So I booked an appointment with them and went and saw this lovely technician who I think is going to save my life. So I took my shirt off and laid on the table and she was like, I can see it. And I was like, I know. So she did an ultrasound. She spent about an hour with me. She was an angel. She was like, I'm not supposed to tell you anything. Like, I'm not supposed to talk to you, but I'm not a doctor, but my opinion is this is urgent. So I left there. Immediately called my nurse practitioner, who was like, screw that doctor, basically, you need to go to a breast care center right now. And I was like, okay. She's like, I'll call in a stat referral. So I ended up not even needing a referral. I called the breast care center myself and told them what was going on, and they got me in there the very next morning, like within 12 hours. So I met with a breast care specialist, and she's a surgeon, and she did another ultrasound, said the same things, like it could be nothing, it could be some weird benign thing that happens a lot, but we need to biopsy this thing. So she did 3 core biopsies, and sent it off to the lab. Well, that was Friday and Memorial Day was Monday, so the lab was closed. So it took what feels like forever to get the results back. So on Wednesday morning, I got the pop-up in my chart, and the immediate call from my doctor, and she said, well, you have triple negative breast cancer. And the protocol for that typically is chemo first, then surgery, then radiation. So that's where I am, and that's how it started. So the moral of the story is don't get breast implants. And if you do get breast implants, please do your research and join Facebook groups about breast implant illness, because there's literally thousands and thousands and thousands of women who suffer from them, and doctors don't warn you about them. They don't tell you you have to replace them every 10 years. They don't tell you that they're dangerous and full of heavy metals and toxins and really fucking bad for your body. And if you have a lump, get it checked right away. There's no waiting on the doctor to tell you to get it checked. Trust your intuition, because it knows a lot. So now my mission, my impact, that I'm looking at this, terrible road and terrible club that I now belong to as a breast cancer warrior, is to really try to educate people and get people to get screened a whole hell of a lot earlier than the recommended age of 40. It's a bunch of bullshit. So I go for an MRI tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. And that will obviously tell me if it's anywhere else. Like I said, I think it's in my lymph nodes. I'm in stage 3 anyway because of the size of my tumor, but there's different parts of stage 3, so that will, and then obviously stage 4 is if it's traveled away from my breast entirely. So hoping, praying that it's only in my lymph node and nowhere else, and that just helps dictate the treatment that they do. So, and then I meet oncology on Monday to go over the scan and find the treatment. So that's where I'm at. Part 1, triple negative breast cancer. Fuck.